What's your thoughts on government cover-ups or covert societies attempting to control humanity? Do you believe in ancient astronauts, intergalactic communication, or extraterrestrial visitations? Ever had an experience with disembodied spirits or the paranormal universe? Are these subjects fact or fiction? Each week, Tony and Eddie explore these unbelievable realities and beyond. Exclusively on Truth Be Told.
Hello and welcome to Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie. I'm your host, Tony Sweet.
And I'm Eddie Connor. Today's a great show, Tony, because, listen to this quote, our soul is the soul chamber. Now, this is one of the teachings of our guest today. She's from Australia. She's a spiritual teacher and soul voice, offering powerful guided meditation.
That is right, Eddie. And we have the author of the tip-off Global Energy Forecast, the amazing Elizabeth Peru, is with us today.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Now, everyone, Elizabeth has been teaching metaphysics since 2000 and has also been an Asui Reiki master since 2003. Her teachings are worldwide through her online Advanced and Master Soul Mentoring program. Her focus is on consistently delivering accurate and helpful life guidance as she intuitively interprets global cosmic influences.
We here at Truth Be Told love her work, and we know you will walk away from this interview with the tools to help you grow and develop your own soul path.
And to find out more, simply go to elizabethperu.com. And without further ado, please welcome spiritual teacher and soul voice, Elizabeth Peru.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for calling all the way from Australia.
Hello. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me to be here.
And we love the accent, by the way.
I know, it's just so beautiful. It's got this wonderful, soulful sensuality to it, and that emotionally connected to source energy and aligned by the universe kind of way, Elizabeth.
I just said it was pretty. That's all I
It matches her on the outside, too.
And we have John Williams joining us today.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Well, we want to get started, and we always say the people that join us for the first time, we want to find out through their journey how they got started in their path. And so I know in 2000 you kind of really got into the mix of your destiny. And so could you kind of tell us what got you on this path?
Well, what got me on the path was in my mid to late 20s is really when everything started for me. And I got married, and my marriage didn't end up the way I thought it would, as it often is the case. And so we ended up getting divorced, probably not too long after I got married, actually. And so that set me on a new course. That set me on a course of where I started to question everything about my life. And I went into a self-imposed quiet state, probably for about 2 or 3 years. And this is why I often say to people, if you can be on your own for a period of time, it's the most powerful thing for you, because it changed everything for me. I started having really intense dream experiences. This was a period, keep in mind, where I kind of pushed away all my social circles. I just really sort of cocooned myself off, and I started delving in deep to who I was. And so at night, I would start having these out-of-body experiences, even though I didn't know what they were at the time. They were scary when they first, because when you're aware that you're out of your body and yet you're still you, it's a little bit unreal to fathom at the time to your consciousness. But this is what got it, because I started realizing there's more to my life than the physical. And so it was through my dreams that I opened up to my spirituality. And then it was around about 1999 when I'd sort of really had enough of my normal mainstream life. I was working in corporate then. I've been working in corporate for about 10, 15 years. I actually studied as an accountant originally, if you can believe it, which has held me in good stead, though, to be able to run a business, which is, I think, is important for anyone. But yeah, I'd had enough of everything, and I can remember it was New Year's Eve, about 1999, and I was on a little island off Australia called Kangaroo Island. which is a really spiritual place, actually. I've since found a lot of people have woken up there. And I can remember it being almost midnight and just looking up to the stars, and the fireworks were going off. This was the birth of a new century, a new 2,000 years as well. And I can remember thinking, I want a better life than this. I just looked up to the stars and said, I want a better life than this. That's all I asked for. And everything changed the next day. I remember getting up really early and watching the sunrise, which I couldn't remember having done before. And I started meeting people. I started meeting new friends. And some of the new friends I met actually asked me to go for a psychic reading. And up until that point, I had refused to do such things because I said, I don't need that. I know what I'm doing. I don't need anyone to tell me my destiny. However, my new girlfriend said, no, come with us. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I said, okay, I'll go with you for fun. I walked into this psychic reading, and the lady there, I connected with her straight away. And she started rubbing my tummy, and she said, why am I doing that? I said, I don't know, but it feels good. And she said, I know.
At least
and
it
so
felt
we sat
good.
down. Yeah, and the first thing that she said to me was, what do you do? What do you do? And I really shyly, I said, well, I studied as an accountant. I knew that wasn't what I was meant to do. And she said, no. I said, I know it's no. She said, yes. She said, you do what I do. And I said, what's that? It intrigued me. She said, you do what I do. And she said, you wait, in 10 years, you're going to be very successful. You'll be running your own work and you'll be very successful. And the reading went on from there. And that's all I remember of the reading, her first lines to me. She didn't tell me how or where, but she sort of opened the door on what I was already intuiting. And so from then I just started on my journey, and I discovered so many things, massage and Reiki and all types of healing and meeting people. And I discovered meditation, and I started going to meditation groups every week for 2 or 3 years. And I was just eating it all up, loving it, remembering and thinking, this is what I love. This is what I'm good at. This is it. And realizing that I could actually make a career from it as well was very important to me, because I had always wanted to run my own business, but I wanted to do what I loved and to be inspired every day. And so ever since then, that's what I've been doing. And it's just evolved, and it's been really organic along the way. And if you'd asked me back in 1999 what I'd be doing in 2016, I wouldn't be able to tell you what I'm doing now, because I would have never dreamt of it.
That is amazing, because many people like Eddie, who is a psychic, and you knew from very early age, you didn't know kind of what it was, but you knew you had the gift. And then some people say they have near-death experience that opened up their realm to the psychic gift. But it sounds like you had it, you just really wasn't aware of it until a later time in your life.
I can be someone that likes to learn for myself. This is my pattern as well in my life. I like to know when I'm ready for things as well. And I think that was probably part of it. I needed to go through a lot of inner journey and to be ready myself. And that's what I did. I went through a lot of dark days, and I feel that that's what I needed for part of my path. I needed to experience the absolute down as well. Because that certainly has helped me in my work with other people, because I know what they're talking about when they speak about it, because I've been through it myself. And I like to experience everything myself from the beginning. I've always said, experience your soul. That's what we're here to do. We're here to experience our soul in its richness and fullness. And if that means going down paths that you know at the time are going to cause some pain and probably some suffering for yourself, but you still keep walking, I understand that, because I've certainly done that in my life. And I find that's a good way to learn. And it's a wonderful basis to teach from then too.
I love the fact that you took time out for yourself and isolate. I'm using the wrong adjective here. I like how you went into yourself, and you were into yourself for a long time to find out which direction you were going to go. I also love that you love to ask great questions. And I find that when we ask great questions over and over and over, it sort of builds this reservoir of desire inside of us that launches all of this energy out into non-physical. And then I love how your guides and your guidance started coming to you in dreams, and then marrying the best of the non-physical and physical worlds together. And I just hearing you speak about it, we can all see you sitting on the beach watching the sun coming up, and your whole life being different from 1999 and before, and 2000 and after.
And now she's teaching people to do the same thing.
I know.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, child, please. Girl, we love you.
Look, I love it as well. It's so exciting. I always say to people, they often come to me and they say, how can I teach others how to go through these things, or how can I teach others to be on their spiritual path? And I say, well, you've got to be in it for yourself first and foremost.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you've got to enjoy what you're doing, and you've got to be getting something out of it yourself. We can't go into this work just thinking we're the savior of other people.
Oh, my Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And don't you find the people who do go into the work to save other people end up being the one who needs to be saved the most in the end?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because ultimately we are, though. We often teach what we mostly need to learn ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's important that you go through everything yourself as much as possible, and you'll do it while you're teaching even more intensely. I know when I started mentoring people, that was the biggest lessons of my life came in. The biggest lessons of my life, because I had to 150 million% walk my talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to eat every word you say when you're in a mentoring position. If you're putting yourself in that position of, I've walked this path before you, you have to. Yeah. And you have to walk it probably more intently than the people you're working with. And that's challenging for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have a point? Did you have a point going through that stage of having guilt at all? Because I know, being from the South and the Midwest, where we're always taught to put others before yourself. Like Eddie always says, to not speak.
Yeah, you're to be seen and not heard.
Not heard. Mm-hmm. So putting yourself in that position of doing things for yourself, being alone. Did you ever go through a guilt of that at all? Look at her shake her head.
No.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. No. I like being on my own.
See, I do too. Now, I'm 46, and I love. The older I've gotten, the more I love spending time with myself.
Because that's not by choice, Elizabeth.
Shut up.
Look, if you can be in your own space, you can do anything in the world.
That's right.
Honestly. Because it's one of the greatest fears people have. I know my mother, she cannot be on her own, ever. And I've never been like that. Even as a little kid, I can remember playing on my own, even though I had a brother with me, but I'd play on my own. And actually, I did have an imaginary friend for years, and I've always spoken to other energy. Even though, we said I wasn't aware of it, but I've always spoken to other energy. I'm sure they were my guides when I was little. And I would have in-depth conversations for hours and hours. And so even when I'm on my own, I never feel like I'm on my own.
Yeah, you never feel alone because you're in that, you're healed and whole and healthy, and you're on your way to an even more healed, whole, and healthy place. I'm sure
there's a lot of energy around.
Yes.
I'm always having conversations constantly with spirit. So you're never really on your own, even when you're on your own, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Even when you're driving your car, even when you're saying your prayers at night, even when you're in the shower, you're like, who there?
My favorite is on my walks in the morning. That's when I set up my conversation with my guide. Every morning we have a big chat. We're like best friends, and we chat about the day and anything that's bothered me from the day before, and I sort it all out. By the time I've gotten home, I've had my daily therapy session with my own guide, and I'm ready for everything.
Did you have some kind of a really lovely relationship with the tree when you were little, or is that now?
With a tree?
Yeah, like a big tree.
I remember. I like trees now. I appreciate probably nature a lot more now than I did as a child.
It's got that feeling. I just keep seeing you in a grove of trees, and they're all like holding the space for you and just continuing to ground you into that wonderful energy. And you're kind of like, what's your name, Elm?
I actually walk around a river every day, and there's trees everywhere. So that resonates with me. I've got a lot of trees where I live, a lot of birds. So I'm surrounded in nature and water. So
this will be
totally love it.
This will be a weird question. When you were walking in nature by the river, when you were actually doing the walk, did like a piece of bark or something fall from a tree right in your path when you were walking or right behind you recently?
Can't remember.
I feel like
I won't say no, but maybe.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to have something. I know it's going to sound weird, but I feel like you're going to have some kind of one of those experiences where it's like, show me a sign. It's going to be like, boom.
Okay.
And I feel it's from the trees.
All right, I'll be looking out for it, and I'll have a good laugh when it happens.
Right. So when I say cosmic consciousness, what does that mean to you?
That means being aware of our place within the universe, when you say that to me. And we are cosmic citizens. And one of the things I feel really strongly drawn to help bring into our awareness this year is the importance of Earth as a cosmic body. Because we can often negate that. We can often think that Earth is removed somehow from this terrific universe all around us and this starry realms that we look up to. But we are that starry realm too. From a perspective of another planet, Earth is one of those planets out there. And I think we tend to forget that we're living on a cosmic realm. And this planet, Earth, it is shifting our consciousness. Often we think our consciousness is being moved by the dance of the other planets and the sun in our solar system, but also Earth is this great body that our feet are upon, we are energetically connected to, and its consciousness is moving us as well. It's a living, breathing entity, and I really need to get that across to people this year, that the Earth is no different than you. It's just a little bit bigger. And I often say we are planetary bodies as well. Our physical body is like a planet. It's just smaller.
Yeah, and we have a relationship. A lot of people don't understand that we have a relationship with every single thing that we see and every single thing that we don't see. And when you're speaking about us becoming more conscious of the Earth as a living, breathing being, a consciousness, when you're in a relationship with somebody and you're not appreciating them and you're not loving them, and you're ignoring them, and you do things to them you wouldn't want done to you, aren't you essentially being treated the same way back energetically, meaning what you don't appreciate isn't going to appreciate or support you as fully?
Totally. Agree with you. It's you may as well get a mirror and start talking into it.
Well, oh, look at you. That sounds like something in one of your workshops, ElizabethPeru.com.
I often say that. It's like, talk into the mirror and then say what you want to say to someone else, because you're talking to yourself. And I think if we all imagine there was a mirror in front of us when we're having a tirade at another person or we're explaining why we don't like them or whatever, we would stop in our tracks.
That's true. That's why Tony uses a mirror ball.
Oh, wow.
It's true, but
because there's more little pictures of him in the mirror ball.
the more I see, the more prettier I am. So when you, it sounds like a little bit of astrology. Are you a student of astrology?
No, look, I've never studied astrology formally. I've had papers in my hands. I've filled them out, and I can remember doing this more than once, and it was like something about it told me, no, don't do this, don't go ahead. You don't need to go ahead with that course or whatever. And often I find mainstream astrology is a little bit too mental for me. It's a little bit too, it's a very exacting science, astrology.
Yeah, of course,
and I'm someone that likes to, I guess, sort of blur the edges a bit. And I like to feel things and intuit. And that's when I'm at my best. Being exact is a challenge for me. I like to feel my way through things and interpret them that way. So I do follow astrologically what's happening with the alignment of the planets, and then I look at that, and then I go into my soul and I ask, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So
and you do an amazing job of that, because I read the comments in your on your Facebook feed, and it blows me away just to see how many people resonate with what you're saying by a post that you post about something that like for instance, now you're talking about the Saturn retrograde that's going on, and before that you were talking about the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse that we had, and all the effects that people will be feeling in their bodies and in spiritual as well. The spiritual effects as their bodies are adjusting to the changes. And you are just dead on with all the things that you say, from the ringing in the ears to the, to the habits that are changing within us, our sleep being affected, all of those different things that you bring to people's awareness, that they can say, oh, thank you for those answers, because they're just like trying to figure out what's going on with me, as they're ascending.
Well, when I write and when I tune in, I imagine that I'm tuning into one person.
Mm.
So I imagine that everyone in the world that I'm talking to is one person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't help but relate that to me. And so, because I always feel we're all one person on this planet at our core. We're all the same. We're all the one. We're all one being.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I write for one being when I write. And then so I go within myself and I ask, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I get excited about it. And I can literally feel it within my own body, within my own being, what people are going through, because I know, because it's what I'm going through too.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, you've got to really, when you're doing this sort of work, you've got to be doing it for yourself first and foremost, and then it resonates with everyone.
It does.
So you've got to really enjoy it yourself, and because I get a buzz out of what I write. I sometimes I sit back and I go, wow, really? I like that. And so I get excited, and then I can't wait to push it out on Facebook or in my tip-off forecast.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way, when I hear people's comments come back and they say that's spot on, or it feels like you're just talking to me, have you got a video camera in my house? These are the sort of comments I often hear. And I giggle because I think, I know, I can imagine how you feel, because I felt like that when I wrote it.
Yeah. I often feel like that when I'm reading your stuff, and I repost it to my wall all the time. And then, it's just a little teaser of what the tip-off contains in much more depth, right?
Yeah. Well, the tip-off is so in-depth. And social media, we kind of lose our train of thought if you put too much in there. So, I keep it nice and short as I can on social media, but then I can go wild with the tip-off, and I can just really put all the depth in. And I just love writing it each week for people. It's quite a lyrical experience for me as I'm tuning in and I'm looking at, right, what's happening next week? So we just had a Saturn retrograde over the last 16 hours. And see, I follow these patterns every year. And so I have my own interpretation of what that means. And it can be completely different to what an astrologer would say or another forecaster, because it's, I guess, my interpretation. And I remember the feedback I get from people. I'm an observer of life. I like to listen to what people are going through, and I like to hear what they really mean underneath. I love getting under the skin of people. Always have enjoyed that since I was a little kid.
And I love that you get excited about what you write, where so many people in this genre industry feel like they just have to write it just to get something out there to keep relevant. And not really get excited about what they write. And so I think that's like going into a job. They say if you love your job, it's not really a job. It's just something you love to do, instead of just going to work and clocking in at 9 and clocking out at 5. So I think that's refreshing. But I want to go to the Saturn retrograde. So I'm curious on what was your interpretation of what that is and what's going on.
Okay, so over the last 24 hours or so, a lot of people have become a little bit more slowed down, a little bit more introspective, going within a little more.
Right.
Saturn is, to me, a planet that influences us on our life purpose. And it helps us to become a little bit more serious about who we are and what we're doing. And serious isn't bad. It's not, often people say, don't get serious, it's too much hard work. Saturn loves a little bit of rolling your sleeves up and doing a bit of hard yards. I love that as well. I always say to people, the more disciplined you can become, the freer you become. The more responsible you become in your life, the freer you become. And often people don't understand that. What that means is when you know how capable you are, then there's nothing holding you back.
Wow.
And that frees us. when look, I've done that before, I can do it again. Or even if I haven't done this before, I know I can get through it because I've proven it to myself time and again with other things. Saturn gives us, when it's in retrograde, opportunities to go over tasks that at other times of the year we might find very difficult, personally challenging, and it gives us the opportunity to push through and prove to ourselves how capable we are. So I would be suggesting over the next 5 months for people who may be people that like things to happen now in an instant.
Yes.
Get a little bit impatient when everything's not quite going their way. The beauty of looking back over time is you can often see if I'd pushed a little bit too hard at that moment, I wouldn't have actually gotten what I needed. Right. And you can see the bigger picture. Saturn tells you to have trust, have faith, and work on your abilities, work on your capabilities, and go a little bit more slow and steady and learn how good you are in the process. And so over the next 5 months, if there's any personal project in your life that means a lot to you, it could be a new career path, it could be a home, it could be a relationship, it could be your own personal growth, whatever it is, use this opportunity to go a little bit deeper into it and start planning, because come August, September, you'll be launching what you're planning now over these next 5 months. So it's a good period to quietly work in the background at something very personally important to you. And one thing I will say is I'm a big believer in keeping things quiet.
Yes. And on that note,
go ahead.
On that note, we're going to leave that as a cliffhanger for just a second. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie.
I'm Tony Sweet.
I'm Eddie Connor.
And I'm John Williams.
And we have with us Elizabeth Peru. You can find out more about Elizabeth at elizabethperu.com. She's our spiritual teacher and soul voice. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come right back and dive back into what you're just saying. We have to have a teaser here.
I know. Got
from
so
the
much
beautiful
more.
lady from Australia. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere with Elizabeth Peru. Do you suffer from anxiety, from depression, maybe even chronic pain? Well, listen up. Truth Be Told is going to tell you about a breakthrough program built on over 100 years of therapies used in America's returning veterans to help you successfully overcome PTSD, anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. The secret proven in study after study. Music therapy. The effects of music are nothing short of amazing. From strokes to PTSD, music has been shown to improve the quality of life. Now, one of the latest music therapy programs being used in America's veteran hospitals can be yours to experience for free, at home, and to help your own anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. Or just relax after a hard day. It's called Whole Tones. It takes music therapy to a new level. This revolutionary program makes use of specifically designed frequencies that have been shown to stimulate your body's natural healing power down to a cellular level. If it works for battle-scarred vets, can it work for you? Well, experience it for yourself for free at sweetwholetones.com. Like Tony Sweet, that's SWEET. Go to sweetwholetones.com. Now enjoy the show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie. I'm Eddie Connor.
I'm Tony Sweet.
And I'm John Williams.
And we have with us our extraordinary international guest. She's a spiritual teacher. She's also a soul voice, and she is educating us. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we are learning a lot. We have Elizabeth Peru with us, and John wants to launch the second half of the interview and ask you some more questions.
So, Elizabeth, we were talking earlier about the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse, and then when you were giving us a little overview about what was going on with the Saturn retrograde. So that's a lot of cosmic energy hitting us all at once, and I'm just wondering what that collective is doing and how is it affecting us?
Oh, is that like a bitch slap from the universe?
Well, the last 2 weeks in particular, I call them the eclipse portal. So when the first eclipse of the season began, which was the total solar eclipse, we opened a door on every day was intensified and new beginnings happening for us, and we've been asked to clear out our closets, so to speak. I always say that when an eclipse comes around, it's like opening the door on everything you've shoved into your closet for the last 6 months and didn't really care too much about, and then one day you open that door and it all falls on your feet.
Okay.
You know, we all do that, don't we? We've all got a closet somewhere at home where we just push everything in and quickly close the door. And then one day you're not thinking and you open it up and it all falls everywhere.
Wow.
And you have to clean it up because it's all on the ground. It's all around you. And that's what the first eclipse of the season does. It opens a door on what you've been hiding, what you've been pushing away, what you haven't wanted to look at. And it's out there. It's all around you and you have to do something about it. Not everyone likes that. Not everyone likes to look at their stuff. Not everyone likes to work through their challenges. But if you do, it's good for you because you learn how capable you are. And as I said, that helps you be responsible and that frees you. Frees you on Earth. So the eclipse opens the door on what we need to clean up. And then every day we are looking at ways of cleaning up our lifestyle. So there's been a lot of purging, a lot of detoxing, a lot of, challenging situations have arisen for people, a lot of physical changes. There's a lot of aches and pains because there's some resistance and letting go of what you've been holding in for so many years. It's painful, physically painful for some people when they're attached to an old habit to then have it basically, it's almost like being drawn out of you. It's almost like the eclipse doorway draws it out of you. And so people have been feeling part of them, they're losing part of their self, their old self. And that can be a scary feeling for others because they don't know what's going to take its place. They might feel alone. They might feel like a newborn. Then the lunar eclipse comes in this week and closes the door on that 2-week period. And as I say, when that happens, then it's almost like New Year's Day again. So this Thursday, Friday, it's like New Year's Day. It's like, right, here we go again. We've reset. And then bang, there goes Saturn retrograde straight away to help you out. There's always something going on.
Yeah, what if you have a birthday right in the middle of all of it? Like I did.
Well, then, really?
Yeah.
So you've got a supercharged year ahead. You've really got to make some amazing strides ahead.
Yeah.
You're blessed this year to have your birthday occur at such an occasion.
Well, that's such a great perspective because I'd be like, oh, Lord, just wake me up in December.
No. Embrace your challenge.
Yeah.
I can get this across to people. Like every week, I find so many challenging things, in front of me, and it never really goes away. It's just another level of it. You know, you've got to ring this person, you've got to say this to that one, you've got to, the things that you want to shy away from and you wish someone else could do. But the more you do this, the more you learn, no, I need to do it for myself because then I'm going to learn and then I'm going to feel good. And I feel humans just want to feel good. They don't want to be in fear. They don't want to be in pain. And the way to do that is to work through what you find most challenging.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Well, something you said.
It's not difficult. It's fun, actually, the more you do it.
But scary at first. At first.
Scary at first, but gets less scary.
Because Elizabeth's a trooper. That's for sure.
I am a trooper.
Yes,
I
you
often
are.
say to people on my page, let's be soul troopers because you've got to be a little trooper
That's true.
and get on with your stuff. And that's what, it makes you feel good. And that's what brings us all together and brings the love in too when we're all little troopers together.
To find those solutions, right?
Solutions. Well, I want to ask you something you said before we went on break. You said keeping hush about certain things that you do. And so I found this many times in my life that something that great was going to happen. Like, you got confirmation and you start telling the world and then crash. That doesn't happen. And I don't know how many times in my life that I got confirmation that something was, it was confirmed that it was going to happen. And I verbally
Especially
said
in
it.
this industry.
Yeah. And then you verbally speak it and then it crashes. Why do you feel, was it a coincidence? Or was it something cosmically that actually stepped in and goes, yeah, it's not ready? Because is it an ego that you're, verbally wanting to tell people? Like, what is that?
People call that jinx, but what would you say?
Yeah, because it happened a lot. And so I just started not saying things.
Good. I would recommend that. And I do recommend that to everyone. So I can remember the first article I ever wrote for a magazine that ever got published was called The Power of Secrecy.
Oh.
I'm going to have to read that.
And I felt that was, I remember feeling really strong about that when I wrote it. And I remember it was a little bit controversial because some people, especially in this industry, they teach us to be very open and to share everything and don't hold back and whatnot. But I've held on to this modicum, and I believe it's an ancient modicum as well, that there's a lot of power behind something that you keep quiet. And we are in an energetic universe. And the more you can keep something tight, the more powerful it becomes. The more powerful it becomes. So if there is something in your life that you really desire to create, then you keep it quiet. Because you'll create such a strong energy field around it that no force will be able to stop it.
I totally get that.
So what's the old saying, though, when you say the truth shall set you free? What's the difference between telling the truth and keeping a secret
You're telling you the truth, child.
But you know what I mean? I want to...
Correct. You know your truth.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell the world.
Okay.
As long as you know it and you're living it and you're working away at it. I mean, I do this all the time. This is one of the secrets of my success, I feel, is that for years, I rarely tell people what I'm going to do next.
Wow.
Because I know what will happen. It will never happen.
Well, you know,
it's as good as wiping it off the table.
The first time I ever wanted to go to Peru, back then in 1998, whenever I had the desire, I've had the desire since I was a teenager, but in 1998, I really wanted to go. I didn't make the association at the time, Elizabeth, but I told no one, not one soul. So every other day or so, I would take all of my pictures of Peru, my books with Shirley MacLaine. I would watch Out on a Limb. I would get postcards. I would lay it all out on my bed, and I would go through every one of them and appreciate them, and I would start thanking Machu Picchu for letting me come to visit it. I did this for less than 1 month, did not tell one soul. And in 1 month's time, a client on the other side of the United States called me and asked me if I knew anything about Peru, Machu Picchu, Shirley MacLaine's movies, and that Carolyn Mace was on her way to Peru. And I was like, yeah, I know about it. And we talked for a little bit, and long story short, he's like, I would like to take you to Peru.
Wow.
All expenses paid, because I want to travel with someone who's intuitive and spiritual and fun to get along with, so that you can help me understand what I'm picking up in Peru. 4 weeks. And I know what you're saying is spot on accurate, because when, as sensitive people, Tony's a sensitive person, John and we're all sensitive. When we're that sensitive, empathic's another way to say it, we have a tendency to care what people think when we share big things that are way outside of our normal comfort zone or the way they perceive us. And all of those bricks start getting thrown into the mix. And when you don't share it with anybody and you hold it purely, can't nobody throw no damn bricks in your mix.
And isn't it delicious as well?
Yeah, it feels so
when
good.
you hold something to yourself and it's just for you.
Yeah.
And no one else knows about it. It's almost a little bit cheeky, isn't it? So you're like, no one else knows about it. But we know when something's really important to us.
Yes.
Because you didn't share that, because that meant everything to you, and something your soul told you to keep it tight.
Yeah, and I'd never done it before. And since then, I have done 10 world tours.
Wow.
As a result of being cheeky.
And being selfish, looking after you. You must do this. Now, if you have anything of great importance to bring through to the world, I suggest you keep it tight, and you resist the urge to go around and tell everyone, because that's a surefire way that it won't come to being.
And I have to say, when I was telling people when something big was going to happen, I honestly, in my head, going, don't say something, because it was a guilty pleasure of going, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, my God, that's great. It was an ego thing. It was an ego thing.
Sometimes.
Not always,
and
but
also
it was an ego thing.
beyond the ego, because I teach people to love their personality, because that's what I call ego. I call it your personality, because it's the human framework that we work through.
Right.
And the personality gets a hard rap so often in spiritual teachings. A lot of people say you've got to kill the ego off and all this, and I totally disagree with that. I think you've got to get your personality feeling appreciated and loved, and that it's doing a good job for you, because it's your spokesperson for your soul. If your personality is, not working in tune with the soul, well, then this is when we get a disparity between the head and the heart. But the more you can get your personality expressing the soul clearly, the better it is for you.
And I think John has a question real quick.
Yeah, we have about 4 minutes.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the time, and when I was looking at the time, I saw 444, and it brought me it brought me to this question that I know that I've been seeing in my, on your wall, first of all, but I also have been seeing 444, 333, 555, 111 all the time. And you have a very interesting interpretation of what those numbers mean. I was wondering if you could share that with our audience.
Okay, so whenever we see master number sequences, and by the way, I love numbers. Love numbers. I think there's another whole show there. They explain so much about the universe.
That's why you start out as an accountant.
Yeah.
Maybe. And I have this thing where I am constantly counting in my head. Constantly, and it never stops, and it's like a rhythm, and it's a sequence that goes on. But that's something for another day too. But when we see sequences like 111, 222, 33, 444, that's an acceleration process, and that's a sign to you that your consciousness is rising, and that you've been putting the work in, and that right now is a rapid growth period for you. And depending on the sequences, there's different messages within that. We look at 111s, and that's almost like doorways are opening. Congratulations, well done. It's a celebratory number. 2s is very much about peace and compassion, and you're working in partnerships. And the 444 is the number of the angelic realm, which is all about responsibility. That's that very Saturn energy. It's about doing your work, and it's about feeling wonderful for working through your challenges as well. So it's a real sort of maturing is happening with the 4s. 4s is very solid, practical, focused work. So I like that number came up for you just then.
Yeah, and 5's a constant as well. 555. What do you get from
Well,
that
that's
one?
change, absolute change and expansion and travel. Everything expanding, travel, spontaneity, a catalyst. So you can expect a lot of surprises, and you need to jump on your opportunity.
Wow.
Well, I want to ask one real quick question before we go.
Sure.
And now 2016, what other cosmic influences are going to be that we should look out for? Just give us one that you can are looking forward to, or maybe watching out for.
So we're wrapping up this year what we began in 2008. I call this the year of completion, which means you will be walking into the unknown most days, and the unknown only to the head, the personality, but certainly the known to the heart. So you'll be making decisions on the spot, and you might be unsure of what the outcomes will be, but you need to go forward with them. Also look at this year as the year when you reach the top of that mountain that you've been walking and climbing up since 2008. Therefore, it's a year of celebration. Stop and smell the roses.
Yes.
And look all around you for evidence and signs that your work is paying off and the reward is imminent. That is this sort of year.
Wow, which goes back to what you were saying earlier. Our heart is the soul chamber.
Chamber. Surely is.
Which is a perfect way. All right, so before we get out, you have the tip-off Global Energy Forecast. Where can people check that out?
On my website, on elizabethperu.com. And the tip-off is a weekly service. I write 7 days in advance for the globe, so people everywhere can pick it up and they can read every day as pertaining exactly to them. I intuitively write beyond time zones. I always almost wish we had one time zone on the planet. It's available on my website. So I encourage people to download the sample issue, have a look what it's about, read the comments from other people, join me on my Facebook page, get to know me, and you may enjoy the tip-off. It's a great guide for your life.
And I can't believe this is already gone, and we have to have you back because we have so much more conversation to have with you. But it's been a pleasure to have Elizabeth Peru on our show. Go to our website, elizabethperu.com, and you can check out this on YouTube. If you guys missed the show, listen to us, our podcast on iHeartRadio, on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher. You can find us everywhere. Please enjoy Elizabeth, because this is just a sample of
Yeah.
what
It's a
I mean. A
I
sample.
I
the
of
tip
what
of the
you get.
iceberg.
Yes,
Yes.
the drop into the pond. As it
Yeah.
would.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
let's stir that pond up.
That's
I love that.
right. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Elizabeth.
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 Bye-bye.
All right, bye, sweetheart. All right, well, it is time for us to get out of here. We don't want to let you guys go too early because we have to tell you we're going to do a 10-minute interview that we did with Michelle.
Oh, with
Or
Melissa.
Melissa, excuse me.
Melissa Rauch from The Big Bang Theory. It's the #1 sitcom in the country, has been for 4 years. She has a new movie out called The Bronze. She's hysterical in this, and she and her husband Winston wrote it. And Tony and I had the opportunity to do a quick interview with her here at ubnradio.com.
All right, we're out of here. We'll see you in about 10 minutes. We have David Jacobs. He is a UFO historian, a UFO researcher, a historian, and an author. You don't want to miss it. So have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.